Hey, Josh. Hey, John. Hello, Ron. Good morning, everybody. I'm incredibly honored to be in Fort Lee. Mayor Mark Sokolich, thank you so much to you and your team for hosting us so graciously. Let's hear it for the mayor. That was Benji Wimberly, not the mayor, but I had to go over and say hello to him. I'm incredibly honored to be joined by an all-star cast of folks from both public service and private sector, beginning most importantly with our federal delegation, Senior Senator Bob Menendez, who we'll hear from in a minute. Both Congressman Josh Gottheimer and Congressman Bill Pascrell are with us this morning. Row 2 on seat A, they said would never be together, but we are. Please help me welcome a guy who's known well in New York, New Jersey, Randy Mastro, who is with us today and is our outside counsel. He is joined by a fellow King and Spalding partner, Craig Carpenito, who could not be with us today, but in absentia, I wanted to give Craig a shout out, and also our chief counsel, Paramel Garg, is with us. We have a veritable all-star lineup of state legislators. Senators Joe Lagana is with us today. Joe. Senator John Bramnick is with us today. John. Senator Gordon Johnson is in the house. From the Assembly, we have the Speaker of the General Assembly, Craig Coughlin. Chris Tully. Lisa Swain. The aforementioned Benji Wimberly. Shama Hyder. Ellen Park. We also have Bergen County Commissioner, and when she speaks to me in her teacher's voice, I do what she tells me to do. Joan Voss is in the house. Joan. And we also have from our administration, State Treasurer Liz Moyle. Liz, great to have you. And the Chief Executive Officer of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Tim Sullivan. So today, I am here to announce, I don't do this every day, I have to say, that we are suing to block New York's ill-conceived congestion pricing plan. That's the most applause I've gotten in 2.5 years. To be clear, we have always been receptive conceptually, right time, right program, to a congestion pricing proposal. We are, after all, I think if you look over the past 6 years, there's no state in America with a stronger environmental record than New Jersey. And as close neighbors, we have all spent enough time in Manhattan to understand the need to reduce traffic. Further, the effects of the climate crisis are on our doorstep, a fact that we all had to reckon with a few weeks ago in all that smoke and haze coming out of Canada, which we've had a revisiting of over the past week, and again this past weekend when I toured Warren County in particular, as thousands of residents faced treacherous flooding. Unfortunately, New York's proposal will prompt toll shopping, where more drivers seek circuitous routes to avoid paying the highest tolls, resulting in more traffic and more pollution in certain areas. I think, Mark, unfortunately, Fort Lee being one of them. We're particularly disappointed by the lack of a thorough environmental impact review and the lack of mitigation measures for impacted communities like Fort Lee in New Jersey. Because this plan will cause greater traffic and release more chemicals and pollutants in New Jersey, as well as the Bronx, I might add, communities that are already disproportionately suffering from negative environmental impacts, our residents may expect higher rates of negative health consequences, including among others, asthma. The MTA is well aware of these consequences, as evidenced by their plans to mitigate, not eliminate, but mitigate these impacts in the Bronx. But there are no such plans to help lessen the impact on New Jersey communities. And what's particularly unfair is that while the MTA is setting aside funds to mitigate these exact kinds of harms, when they happen in the Bronx, New Jersey will get nothing, not one dime under the current proposal. So we'll bear the burdens of congestion pricing while New York City gets the benefits, and that is not fair. So today we are filing a lawsuit with Randy's help and Craig's against the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration. They're finding that the MTA's congestion pricing program will not have any significant environmental impacts is an error. Under the National Environmental Policy Act that Bob and Josh and Bill know very well, this type of project necessitated a full environmental impact review, and we are asking just that the federal courts force the United States Department of Transportation to comply with the law. Let me say unequivocally that we are proud of our relationship both with Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams. I consider them friends. In fact, I was on with Governor Hochul this morning on another matter. We work in close partnership on a whole range of things, everyday items like security, counterterrorism, major events where the mayor and I will be together tomorrow promoting New Jersey for the Men's World Cup in 2026. It brings us zero joy to have to take this step. And I might add, the same can be said about the Biden administration, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg. I consider these gentlemen friends, outstanding leaders. We agree and cooperate on a whole wide range of items literally every day, but not this. But at a time when prices are rising, this massive increase in tolls would mean hundreds of dollars a month for families that need that money for essentials. And the environmental cost is anathema to our shared obligation to protecting vulnerable communities from hazardous air quality. The bottom line is that we have to put our foot down to protect New Jerseyans. So as we've said many times, we have always been willing to discuss our concerns with the MTA and see if they can be mitigated. But we're not going to allow this poorly designed proposal to be fast-tracked when the law doesn't allow it. At its heart, this is a matter of New Jerseyans being treated fairly, and we will fight like tooth and nail to ensure that is the case. On that note, same church, different pew, I want to share that we are also here today to announce that we are protecting New Jerseyans who are being unfairly taxed by other states. The pandemic dramatically increased the number of folks working remotely. And so now there are a lot of New Jerseyans who both live and work here, but pay taxes to the state where their company is located, many of them New York. We want to make sure that New Jersey residents are being taxed fairly. So today, thanks to Joe and other sponsors, I am signing a bill that will help ensure New Jersey taxpayer dollars stay in our state and go toward programs and services that benefit New Jerseyans, bringing our policies in line with our neighboring states. This bill will bring our tax code in line with New York's, and it will allow New Jersey to tax remote employees who live out of state but work at New Jersey companies if that state has a similar tax rule. In other words, we will put symmetry into place here. I feel like the Ginsu knife commercial. Hold on. In addition, this bill provides tax credits for New Jersey residents who fight back against aggressive tax policies imposed on them by other states. So if New Jerseyans take this issue up with another state's tax authority and receive a tax refund for the work they did in New Jersey, we will provide that taxpayer with a credit. And I think specifically 50% of the haul, which is not an insignificant incentive for somebody to take action. And finally, if that isn't enough, this bill will create a $35 million grant program administered by Tim and his colleagues at the EDA to encourage companies that mainly operate outside of our state to properly assign their employees that live in New Jersey, or who live in New Jersey, and to open offices here. This will help ensure that when workers pay taxes, the correct jurisdiction receives those tax dollars. As governor, and I could say, I suspect for all of our elected officials here today, one of my primary responsibilities and duties is to make sure New Jerseyans are treated fairly. And that responsibility is at the heart of both of our announcements today. Now, it is my great honor to introduce an absolute fierce, there's no one like him, fighter on behalf of New Jersey's interests. Please help me welcome our senior Senator, Bob Menendez.
Well, thank you, Governor, very much. And let me say, echo your remarks about it's great to be here in Fort Lee. Mayor Sokolich is one of our outstanding mayors in our state, runs a great community, and we appreciate him hosting us. And I want to start by thanking you, Governor, for your leadership, for your partnership, and for standing up for New Jerseyans, especially as we work hand in hand to defeat New Jersey's misguided congestion tax proposal. I appreciate my colleagues in Congress, Congressman Gottheimer, Congressman Pasquale, who have been at the forefront on this issue, an incredible legislative delegation from the state with the Speaker here, a bipartisan effort with Senator Lagana leading the way along with Senator Bramnick. It just says that when it comes to New Jersey, we are all together, regardless of party affiliation, and to an incredible Bergen County delegation that is here as well. In 2019, when New York's congestion tax proposal was still in its preliminary stages, Governor Murphy and I were asked what our response would be. As a united front on both a state and federal level, we drew a line in the sand, calling it a non-starter and a double tax on Garden State residents. Simply put, New Jersey commuters shouldn't have to pay twice. First, a hefty toll to cross the Hudson, and then a congestion pricing surcharge on top of it. Under no circumstances should the state of New York and its MTA make up its budget shortfall by squeezing every dollar from the neighbors across the river, which is why today, more than 3 years later, we continue to vehemently oppose this disastrous proposal. New York's congestion tax plan, in my view, is a brazen money grab. It's highway robbery. It's anti-middle class, anti-small business, anti-common sense for communities that call this side of the Hudson home. And I believe it also violates the Interstate Commerce Clause. And every single one of us here today will not stop, we will not quit, until this harmful policy is reconsidered and rescinded. Earlier this year, when the Department of Transportation allowed this congestion tax to move forward, there was an immediate outcry from New Jersey leaders. Governor Murphy called it unfair, misguided, ill-advised. Congressman Gottheimer said it was a cash grab by the MTA. On my end, I called it a tax shakedown, a slap in the face to the fundamental idea of democracy and fairness between our two states. But no matter the choice of words we use for this proposal, and you should know you've done something wrong when you tick off the entire state of New Jersey, no matter what we call it, we're in lockstep agreement that it's time to fight back and defeat this proposal. Here in the Garden State, we don't mince words. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say. So when I say that we're going to use every tool we have to oppose New York's congestion pricing plan, I mean it. To that end, I've introduced legislation with almost the entire New Jersey delegation that would protect our state's commuters and impose highway sanctions on New York if they continue on this outrageous path. It would require New York to meaningfully engage with New Jersey and receive consent from us before implementing their plan, guaranteeing New Jersey had a seat at the table for any future congestion pricing proposals. Their actions would materially affect not only our pocketbooks but the well-being of our residents, which is why, as an enforcement mechanism, if New York decides to barge ahead with their misguided plan, under my bill they would lose up to 50% of the federal highway funds. That's right, half. Now, some might call this strategy hardball, but then again, those people clearly don't understand that we will do everything within our power to protect New Jerseyans. If any state, be it New York or any other, wants to shake down New Jerseyans in order to balance their budget, they have another thing coming. Now, I take no joy in suggesting that we should cut New York's federal transportation funding, but when you make decisions that affect the quality of life of our residents and you give us no say, no participation, no consideration as to the consequences, then you have brought onto yourself what's coming. So if they don't, they should abandon their arrogant plans to charge up to $23 a day to out-of-state commuters who are facing high tolls and rising costs of life as it is. So we strongly support the governor's lawsuit against New York. We support him, oppose this plan, because it was unilaterally given the green light in a haphazard and scientifically unsound way. By the MTA's own admission, this congestion tax plan will increase traffic congestion and airborne pollution in Bergen County. That's careless at best and callously cruel at worst. According to projections, this congestion pricing plan would also strip the Port Authority of nearly $1 billion in lost revenue, leaving them vulnerable to delaying long overdue capital projects that are about mobility, quality of life, the environment, and therefore would be delayed. That is a huge consequence to bi-state residents. And despite clear evidence that New York's plan would increase particulate matters in communities in New Jersey, the Federal Department of Transportation approved the congestion tax without conducting a full environmental impact statement. As I told Secretary Buttigieg in a call I had with him in the last 2 weeks, that is both scientifically unsound and a dangerous precedent to set. Under the laws established in 1970 by the National Environmental Policy Act, federal agencies must evaluate the effects of their actions on the air we breathe, the water we drink, and so on. They must ensure that impacted communities can provide input into the process. The Department of Transportation and project sponsors in New York clearly failed to do that with congestion pricing. By issuing a so-called environmental assessment instead of a full-scale environmental impact statement, federal bureaucrats simply kick the can down the road, shirking their responsibility to fully consider the environmental costs of their actions. Those consequences are unacceptable for our citizens. So we will not stand by as New Jerseyans are left holding the bag when transit officials in New York or DOT officials in Washington make bad decisions. The congestion pricing plan is a no-win, lose-lose scenario for our state's families and small businesses who rely on the bridge and the tunnels every day. To exclude New Jersey voices from decision-making, to push through a sorry excuse for an environmental study, to run roughshod over the rights of Garden State residents is something we cannot stand for. With their actions, New York and the MTA have clearly shown that they will spare no expense to balance their budget on the backs of middle-class families in our state. We have to protect our residents from an unprovoked power grab. New Jersey will never lay down when it is threatened by bullies. We will always fight back when economic opportunity and quality of life are at risk, and we will relentlessly use every tool at our disposal to stop congestion pricing plan in its tracks. That's a Jersey promise. Thank you very much.
Senator, thank you. That was awesome, and I can't thank you enough for your leadership, and I don't know where we'd be without you. Right beside you in this fight from day one, every single day, another great leader has been out there protecting the interest of not just his district, but of the state more broadly. Please help me welcome Congressman Josh Gottheimer.
Thank you, Governor. Mayor, thanks so much for having us. Appreciate it. Incredible star-studded cast, as the governor said. Congressman Pasquale, our unbelievable senior senator, Bob Menendez, incredible leader, Assemblywoman Park and Hader, and Senator Bramnick, and Assemblyman Wimberly, and Benson, Commissioner Voss, and great Senator Lagana, who's a big day for Tully and Swain and Lagana for their legislation, our incredible leader in the Assembly, Mr. Coughlin, who does just an incredible job, Senator Johnson. Thank you so much for what you all do every day. I'm excited for that bill signing because that's going to make a huge difference for Jersey. and making sure we get more jobs into our state. Proud to have worked with you guys early on in this legislation. It's incredible what you've gotten across the finish line. And if New York keeps doing what they're doing, including the congestion tax, they'll continue to drive more jobs and businesses into Jersey across the GW Bridge into our state, and we're very ready to welcome them. Today is a huge day in the fight against New York's commuter-crushing congestion tax. If the MTA gets their way, less than a year from now, right near here at the GW Bridge, hardworking Jersey families will be stuck with $23 a day tax, $5,000 a year, just to drive to work in New York City. That's on top, as Bob said, of the $17 they pay a day already. It's on top of parking. It's on top of gas. Just think about it. It's basically $100 before you even buy a cup of coffee to go across the bridge. It will also cost the Port Authority nearly $1 billion in investment for capital projects over the next decade, meaning fewer jobs for hardworking men and women of labor and fewer infrastructure improvements for us in Jersey. And because of the congestion tax, come next spring, trucks will be backed up here in North Jersey as far as the eye can see, billowing cancer-causing pollution into the lungs of children in our communities. Plumes of carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, particulate matter, and even formaldehyde, a known carcinogen, into northern New Jersey and, as the governor pointed out, into the outer boroughs. Don't take my word for it. Ask the MTA. All of this is in black and white in the report the MTA submitted to the U.S. Department of Transportation that the Department of Transportation decided to summarily ignore those findings and rubber stamp their approval without an in-depth environmental review. A little odd for an administration that claims to be committed to protecting the environment. That's what's behind this powerful lawsuit the governor announced, and I want to thank the governor for punching back at a state that decided to use Jersey as their piggy bank to solve their years of criminal mismanagement at the MTA, the worst-run mass transit system in the entire nation. Governor, it is great to see Jersey's strength on full display. We always and will always have your back on this fight across our congressional delegation, on both sides of the aisle, in Trenton, and even members of Congress in New York who wanted to send my regards for what you're doing today. 4 years ago, along with others, I sounded the alarm on what New York was planning. Now we're all here together to get the backs of hardworking Jersey families and commuters. And anyone in Jersey knows, if you screw with Jersey, buckle up, we're not backing down. New York and the MTA don't seem to care about the environmental damage the congestion tax will cause, or the massive new traffic at the bridge and at the two tunnels. And they clearly don't care about the nurses, electricians, Uber drivers, and restaurant workers who will suddenly have to find an extra $5,000 a year to pay to get to work. That's after tax dollars, by the way. These people have to work an entire extra day a week to pay for the extra $23 a day congestion tax. You just literally need to give them an extra day, New York, to pay for this new tax you're trying to levy on hardworking commuters. For the MTA, it's just a cash grab. They have a $3 billion budget deficit caused by their woeful mismanagement. They lost $700 million last year to fare skippers alone. Yep, people who just decided to ride and not pay. So they need Jersey to pour our hard-earned dollars into their bottomless black pit over there. Not a nickel will go to Jersey to invest in our mass transit. Not a nickel to address the environmental and health impacts from the congestion tax. And MTA Chairman John O'Lieber knows the harm it will cause. To mitigate the effects of the cancer-causing pollution, as was pointed out, he's given the Bronx $130 million for air filtration units near school and an asthma treatment program for their children. Not a nickel to Jersey for our children. I don't know how the MTA chairman looks at himself in the mirror at night. The MTA chairman should come to Fort Lee and look Mayor Sokolich in the eye and tell him why it's okay to give cancer to the children in our communities. Last points I want to make. I've been speaking to mayors in northern New Jersey in my district, and my bet is that Jono and the MTA can expect even more lawsuits. And that's, by the way, on top of what Bob, Bill, and I and others are doing in Washington to defund the MTA if they want to go ahead with this plan and think that New Jersey folks should pay even more out of our pockets for their mismanagement. They get $2 billion a year right now, and then they want to stick it to us even more? I don't think so. Just this week, the MTA met to discuss how badly they're planning to stick it to Jersey, by the way, without any input from any of us. My kind recommendation to them: don't blow 100 years of cooperation together with the Port Authority. Do the right thing. Clean up the MTA and find another way with New York's $229 billion annual budget to pay your own bills, to clean up your own mess. Don't make the hardworking nurse in Jersey who has an overnight shift in your hospital in New York pick up the tab for your mess. I'll tell you this, we won't stop fighting. We just don't take a punch here in Jersey, we punch back. And that's what we're doing today. That's what this lawsuit does. This is about our hardworking families and the air we breathe here in Jersey. That's how I know here in the greatest state, in the greatest country, our best days will always be ahead of us. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless our families. Thanks.
I hope someday we can find a topic that Josh really cares about. Obviously just mailed it in today. Great job, man. I'm calling an audible. And by the way, Josh and Bob, obviously we've heard from. Corey's not here. He's with us 1,000%. Mikey Sherrill, Rob Menendez, Donald Payne, anybody who's associated even remotely with the northern part of the state is all in on this. But I wonder if I could call an audible and ask Bill Pascrell to come up and spend a minute or two, because he's all over this as well. Bill, do you mind? Thanks, buddy. Love you.
I changed my mind. I'm more committed to this than I was when I walked in. So I feel very comfortable. You know, I like to take on the jobs that are going to take long, and you need to persist. On the day that Josh and I were on GW Bridge and announced this fight a couple of years ago, I got home 2 hours later and Governor Cuomo called me. His first words were, "I thought we were friends." I said, "Governor, we could be friends, but this plan stinks." He says, "Well, I'm not going to convince you on the phone." I says, "You're never going to convince me. The way you treat New Jersey, I have a payback for you." Of course, I didn't wish him any harm, but whatever happened to the guy. So it's a pleasure to be back in Fort Lee. And I can't thank you enough for all the courtesies you showed me for 10 years. I hope I didn't let you down. I will try to keep this short. For me, that's pretty good. Less diplomatic than my colleagues, even the governor. The leaders of New York are telling the great people of New Jersey to drop dead. That's Patterson style. The Empire State looks across the river, and what they see is not a great state of 9 million souls. They see $9 million signs. Let me be crystal clear. The Garden State is not New York's piggy bank. We are not the MTA's ATM, period. And if they don't know that by now, they're going to learn it over the next month, years, who knows? You may be the president by then, who knows? You know, things happen. New Jersey has been our region's pack mule for a long time. Enough is enough. We say no more of their weight on our shoulders. New Yorkers should fill New York's budget shortfalls, period. Federal highways will hear from our lawyers for rubber stamping an environmental assessment that never got meaningful input from New Jersey. That's the thing that really ticks me off the most, that we were not really consulted on environmental matters. So, in fact, I just thought of it now. The eastern bridges pay nothing. There's no tolls on the eastern bridges off of Manhattan. What, are they kidding me? New York must provide full toll credits for our commuters, and they must exempt our buses. How many thousands use that every day? Governor Murphy's leadership is indispensable. I look forward to using every legal tool, Governor. If they will not give us a fair deal, I hope we sue the pants off of New York. In telling New York their scheme is more garbage, and then the old Staten Island landfill. There's more garbage in this deal. I thank you, and I hope that you'll take the time to look at the history of this problem, the chronology. They don't understand what the governor's talking about, what Senator Menendez is talking about, and what Congressman Gottheimer is talking about, and our senators in the state that have done such a fantastic job. Thank you, Senator, for the job you've done to help put part of this legislation together, and our assembly, of course. I'm very proud of the senators in New Jersey. And wow, we're working all on the same page. Thank you for listening. Do your homework, media, please, on this subject. It's going to be very important. God bless.
Thank you, Bill. One question I'm going to preempt that the press may have, and Randy and Paramel will correct me if I'm wrong. You may wonder the suit against the Federal Highway Administration. Well, that's because we think the bedrock principle here that's been violated is we need a full-blown, as Senator Menendez said, a full-blown environmental impact study. We leave all of our other legal options on the table, and part of the, I think Randy will correct me if I'm wrong here, part of the reason why we're not taking action, say, for instance, against the MTA today, is that they're still formulating the plan. Is that fair to say? So to be in the proper standing to take legal action, we need to have the concrete elements of the plan. So stay tuned. Congressman, thank you so much for that. Representing his fellow senators from both sides of the aisle, Senator Bramnick and Senator Johnson, please help me welcome one of the big sponsors, supporters of our actions today on congestion pricing, and one of the main sponsors of the bill that I'm going to sign as it relates to protecting New Jersey taxpayers, Senator Joe Logano.
Good morning. I will be brief in my remarks. I just really want to take this opportunity to thank all my partners who worked with me on this important legislation. First of all, thank you, Mayor Sokolich, for inviting us here to Fort Lee. I want to thank Senator Menendez, Congressman Pascrell, and Gottheimer for all your work in Washington, D.C. We have amazing representation in Washington, the best in the country. I'm very proud to have you as my and all of our representatives. To Senator Bramnick, who sponsored this bill with me in the Senate, my assembly mates, Chris Tully and Lisa Swain, and all members of the State Assembly and the Senate. The bill actually passed unanimously. It was bipartisan, and it was a combination of efforts from the governor's office with both houses of the legislature and with the EDA. Tim, thank you so much for your work on this. The governor mentioned briefly in his opening remarks exactly what the bill does. And it is a very important piece of tax policy because it is meant to help New Jersey residents, New Jersey taxpayers who work in New York but live in New Jersey. New York has its own convenience of employee rule, and they're essentially saying, stay in New Jersey, don't even come to New York, we're just going to tax you in New York. So we're just implementing the same rule here in New Jersey. We're also giving tax credits to our residents who fight it in tax court so they can get an appropriate determination that they should be taxed in New Jersey and not New York. And finally, a very big component, which is the $35 million that through the EDA. What we're trying to do with that money is to entice New York businesses to come to New Jersey. It's a better place to do business. It just is. And we have a lot of reasons why companies continue to come here, despite what people say. New Jersey's an extremely business-friendly state, as indicated just a couple days ago in a recent news article. We've improved our standing in this country by leaps and bounds since Governor Murphy's taken office. just being more business friendly, having our finances in a million times better shape than it was just 8 years ago. So I just, again, want to thank everybody. We're not going to stop here. We have other tools in our toolbox that we're going to continue to look at, and we are going to implement as we proceed. And as a lawyer, I love a good lawsuit, so I'm very happy that we're fighting the feds and New York. If they had any brains, they would come to the table. They had plenty of time to do it. I think there's a fair compromise to be reached here. They're refusing to do so, so I hope this changes their minds. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Joe, thanks to you and your Senate colleagues, Senator Bramnick and Senator Johnson, and great remarks. We're going to hear from several members of the General Assembly in rapid fire form. Please help me welcome first up to bat my partner in government. I can't say enough good things about him. Please help me welcome the Speaker of the General Assembly, Craig Coughlin.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with really an all-star Hall of Fame lineup of people who care about New Jersey and are prepared to fight the fight for it. I think you can tell we're fired up when we introduce the lawyer who's going to lead this at a press conference to talk about a bill signing. This is really a big deal. And I think we should also I think we have the opportunity to do something really meaningful. We should make Congressman Gottheimer the special envoy to the MTA. It is abundantly clear that he shares common goals with them and has enormous regard for their work over the course of time, and I think that'll make an important statement to us. Thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you to all my colleagues in the Assembly, both past and former. Joan Voss and I served together. Liz Moyo and I served together. Gordon Johnson and I, John Bramnick. I guess everybody's waiting for me to get the heck out of there, right, for the next time around. But thank you all for being here. Thanks, everybody, for being here. As I said, our federal delegation has made it clear that they're going to fight this fight right next to the state every step of the way. And today is really about fundamental fairness and standing up for New Jersey. That's what this is about on two fronts. One, the ill-conceived, crazy, unfair, and we've heard all of the reasons why it isn't right, congestion pricing, and a bill to stand up for New Jersey residents who pay in their taxes, living here, working here, and spending their time and money here, and yet being forced to pay taxes in New York City. You know, the theory used to be, well, you live in New Jersey, but you work here, and so you consume the services in New York, and that forms the basis for being able to tax you here. The truth of the matter is, as the times have changed, as the pandemic has demonstrated, as people begin to work from home on a regular basis, well, that fundamental argument no longer exists. But what does exist is the fact that New Jersey is ready to stand up for itself and stand up for those people. I think it's a unique and innovative idea, and congratulations to Senator Lagana, Assemblywoman Swain, Assemblyman Wemberly, Assemblyman Tully for putting together this important legislation. And you know it is a great bill because it passed 73-0 in the Assembly, passed unanimously in the Senate. And that means it's not just a North Jersey issue, it's a New Jersey issue, whether you live in the North, in the South, or in the Central. This is about standing up for us and standing up for our residents, which is something we are so incredibly proud to do. And that's why you have a Hall of Fame lineup here, because we want to make sure that we're clear and unequivocal in our statement that says, New York, we're not going to accept this. We are not going to get pushed around by you in this time. You're trying to take advantage of it. It's an ill-conceived, bad plan, a money grab, and a disrespectful thing, and we're not going to tolerate it as the state of New Jersey. So today we begin the fight, and today we stand up for New Jersey residents, and today we should be proud of the fact that together we're going to go forward, and we're going to give them what for. Thanks, everybody.
Craig, thank you, and thank you for acknowledging Ambassador Gottheimer. Speaking on behalf of, again, an all-star lineup of members of the General Assembly with us today, in addition to the Speaker, we have two of the Assembly people here who represent this town and this district. Please help me welcome, first up to bat, Assemblywoman Lisa Swain.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. I represent District 38, so we're very close, but our representatives are Assembly members Ellen Park and Shama Hader. So, but that demonstrates how serious this is, that we mean business when everyone from around the state comes out into this room and speaks about fighting for fairness. And you know, that's why I got into the work that I do many years ago, is fighting for fairness. That's what everybody wants as a resident. They want to know that people are not ignoring them, that they're hearing them, and that they know that the most important thing are those pocketbook issues. And this is an issue that is going to cost everyone money, whether it's the commuters who are now driving into the city and paying all that money, or it's the people in Bergen County who are going to be punished by the additional pollution. So we are here to fight for everyone in New Jersey, and we won't back down. And I just want to say thank you again to all of my colleagues who are here helping us work on this, because it really is a team effort. And Governor, thank you so much for your leadership, and Congressman Gottheimer for championing this issue. We've been working on this for many years together, and to Senator Lagana and Assemblyman Tully, who, you know, we've also been in the trenches working on this. Our bill that the governor is going to sign today not only incentivizes talented employees and well-established businesses to move to or stay in New Jersey, but puts New Jersey on equal footing with neighboring states when it comes to taxing out-of-state employees. Cutting commutes down gives people that extra hour or two in the day so that they can spend with their families, so they can get some errands done at the end of the day, or run to the gym. That extra time is so valuable, and that does not even begin to scratch the surface on the cost savings associated with a shorter commute, cutting back on gas usage and tolls, severely intensified by New York's congestion pricing plan. New Jersey workers deserve to see their tax dollars come back and benefit their communities, not New York's. This bill helps New Jersey residents, small businesses, and economic development all at once. We will not stop fighting for parity among our neighboring states when it comes to tax structure and commuting costs. And again, I thank all of my colleagues for fighting together on this important issue. Thank you.
I just said to Chris and then Lisa, this is why Gordon and Ellen and Shama, they don't have me involved at all in redistricting. Apologies for ripping Fort Lee out of your coverage, Mark, forgive me. But I think it does demonstrate real teamwork. Let me just say something I wanted to say earlier very briefly before we hear from Chris. And Chris is batting cleanup. And I don't make a habit of this because it's not the right thing to do. I don't want to blame everything on everyone who came before us. But if the ARC Tunnel project hadn't been canceled and we had 2 new tunnels, rail tunnels under the Hudson, and the old 2 rehabbed right now, or if there wasn't a lot of foot dragging around the Port Authority bus terminal and we had a brand new shiny bus terminal, all of that, by the way, thank God, is finally happening. But if we had those assets at our disposal and the deal was a reasonable one, I think we'd have a different posture. The fact of the matter is, like the pension payments we make, $7.1 billion, $6.1 billion of the money we put in our budget this year was a penalty for not paying the full pension payment for the past 25 years. So we're all together in this with shovels digging out from what we inherited. Good news is best days are ahead of us. With that, representing finally, last but not least, the 38th Legislative District, Assemblyman Chris Tully.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor, for gathering us all here today. And of course, thank you. It's so proud to stand by you, our incredible federal legislative leadership here with Senator Menendez, Congressman Gottheimer, of course, Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, all our colleagues in the Senate and Assembly across the aisle, and of course, my partners, Senator Joe Lagana and Assemblywoman Lisa Swain. And we know why we're here today. We're here because hardworking New Jersey commuters who cross state lines to provide for their families will soon be targeted by exorbitant congestion fees that drain their hard-earned income and flow entirely into the economy of another state. And in one voice, we are declaring together through this all-star team that we cannot afford to have our residents pick up the tabs for New York's failure to invest in their infrastructure and the MTA's failed policies. And instead, our working families deserve fairness, equal opportunity, and the right to keep their hard-earned income for the betterment of their families and their communities. So together, our bill being signed here today, New Jersey is aggressively combating the cost of working, the costs for residents working across state lines and creating legal parity with New York, as well as making it easier to work, live, and do business right here in New Jersey. And while we're certainly proud of this legislation and proud of our team and our partnership with the governor's office today, it's also a sad day. New York and New Jersey are such natural partners, and together we form one of the most important regional economic hubs in the world. We are a bridge onto each other, and New York leadership is destroying that. MTA leadership is destroying that. And it's a real shame what they want to do to our residents who contribute to New York's economy, and for their contribution and what they mean to the state, they're being met with unfair tax and unjust policies. So again, we're here fighting back and emphasizing that the absurd actions call for our attention, our advocacy, and a united legislative voice. So our bill, our initiatives, will bring convenience and job opportunities right back here to New Jersey, embolden our businesses to grow here in New Jersey, and boost our state's reputation as a magnet for ambitious entrepreneurs and established companies seeking to tap into our talented workforce. Not only are we providing companies the tools to grow their New Jersey workforce, but we're giving the state and our residents the means and support to recoup the losses incurred by New York's tax policy and giving them the tools to fight back. So again, while this is an unfortunate day, we are also very proud to see the bill being signed here today by the governor. And again, we are declaring in one voice, we're going to do everything we can as a matter of equity and justice for all hardworking New Jersey citizens who contribute to other states' prosperity. So thank you, Governor Murphy, for your leadership. Thank you to our federal partners. Thank you again to our Assembly Speaker, colleagues across the aisle. And together we're going to fight for middle-class fairness from undue tax burden, bolstering our business community right here in New Jersey. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Really well said. One last comment I wanted to make before I ask a couple of folks to come up to do on-topic Q&A from the podium, and I'll gather somewhere after I sign the bill if you want to do anything off-topic. Dick Ravitch was a personal friend and a mentor of mine. He just passed a few weeks ago, and I had the honor of eulogizing him. He was asked, Bob will remember this, he was asked to chair the MTA in the mid-'70s when it was completely bankrupt and broken, and he fixed it to his enormous credit without fixing it on the back of New Jersey commuters. So I'm not sure I understand exactly what's gone off the rails, if you will, with the MTA, but it's been done before. They can fix this without us, but not on our backs. Could I ask Bob, Josh, and Bill and the speaker to come up and just join me to take any on-topic questions? Please. By the way, Gateway is moving, and it's moving really well, and it's a good example of really good cooperation across the Hudson. I can't say enough good things about how that's going, including with the governor herself personally. The objective of this lawsuit is to trigger what should have been done already, an environmental impact study, which will take, bless you, it will take time, but that's what's needed. And Mark Sokolich knows this because the burden is going to fall on communities like Fort Lee, more than ever. If there's a deal to be had down the road, I don't know what that looks like yet. We'll leave all of our options open. But the objective, Randy, of this lawsuit is to trigger what should have been done already, which is an environmental impact study. Brett.
So is suing the MTA down the road also a possibility?
It is a possibility. Please. Yeah, so here's my, I do want to respond to that. I'm very happy you asked. If he would agree to increase by the pennies that the New Jersey Turnpike and Garden State Parkway do every year by pennies, if that's what he would agree to do with the MTA in terms of our commuters, then I'd sit down at the table and would figure something out. Is that fair to say? I'm never sending Gottheimer in with Jano. What I just said, first of all, it's a huge economic burden on our commuters, and it's a huge environmental burden on our communities and the individuals who populate those communities. And I think someone who mentioned the Port Authority earlier, Bob did, Bob or Josh should weigh in here. There's $1 billion at stake here, and one other message I want to make is if this were to come to pass, that billion is going to be taken out of the New York side, not one dime of it in New Jersey. Please.
Yeah, the governor's absolutely right. Look, it's $1 billion from the Port Authority on needed infrastructure projects that benefit the residents of both New York and New Jersey, and that would improve the quality of life, the environmental realities that we would face, as well as the economic opportunities. That is a by-state consequence. But I would also say, Governor, I keep hearing, as a member of the Senate Finance Committee, from New York real estate people who have commercial office buildings, and they keep lamenting how a good percentage of their office buildings are vacant. You think that you would want to create the opportunity for more people to go to New York to work, so that your office buildings won't ultimately go into bankruptcy when you have to refinance your mortgage. If I was Mayor Adams, I'd say, hey, this is not a good plan for the city of New York in that regard.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
There's a reason why the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce and so many have come out strongly against this, to Bob's point. These small businesses operating in New York are going to get totally killed. People aren't going to be able to afford from Jersey, who right now, not only do we pay $2 billion a year in income tax to them, as the governor mentioned before, but we support many of the business people, go in and support them, right? And suddenly you're going to hit them with $40 a day, right, on plus parking, plus gas. No one's going to go in there and be able to afford to do anything. So that's a huge economic impact. In terms of the other point, I would just add to what the governor said, for 100 plus years, we've had this incredible cooperative relationship. The reason the Port Authority zone was originally formulated was because you had an area where 20% of the GDP in the country runs through. So we got together and sat at the table and said, between ports and airports and the tunnels and the bridges, let's operate this together. Let's work together in a cooperative way. Whacking people with $23 once you get on the other side of the tunnel or the bridge is not part of a cooperative relationship, right? What they do in upstate New York or what we do on the Parkway, those are totally different areas. This is a zone of cooperative relationship, and they're just sticking a needle in the eye of that cooperative relationship, and they're wondering why we're pissed.
Charlie. Yeah, my colleagues up here are challenging the premise of that last part, Charlie. That turns out the studies show that that's not true in terms of affluence. And someone mentioned it earlier, I think it was Bill, who said, part of this has to be a fair deal on mass transit, including buses. And the point I made earlier, I think, is an operative one. If we had 4 shiny, new or renovated rail tunnels today, we had a shiny, bright new Port Authority bus terminal in existence today, and we could have a fair discussion about what this looks like, would be in a different place. This doesn't bring us any joy to do this, but we don't have either of those in place. I'd rather be digging out of a $1 billion hole, Charlie, than a $6 billion hole. Someone wrote yesterday that the MTA's got their finances figured out and NJ Transit doesn't. The MTA has their finances figured out only if this goes through. Let's be clear about that. NJ Transit, listen, we pledged to fix it. And it's not perfect, but it has come a long way. Safety, on time, reliability, engineers, more than enough to cover summer long weekends, new green train cars and buses. We always knew that we had to get that done first before we could then take the next step. It's I'm not going to go through all the chapters and verses, but we will figure out NJ Transit's challenges. I might add, not on the back of New York commuters. Brenda. So on the former, we leave all options on the table. Is that fair to say, guys? But we think this is the right first step. The amount of tax dollars that we're talking about is plus or minus $2 billion, to the best of my knowledge. Please. Yeah, we don't do things like this symbolically. This is highly substantive. The timing is very simple. First of all, we tried to reason with the feds, with the New York partners, and again, we enjoy a very good relationship, both in my position and in the positions of all of my colleagues. But they chose, the feds in this case, the Federal Highway Administration, chose to take a shortcut and not take what we believe strongly needs to be the approach, which is a complete, full-blown environmental impact study. That decision was only recently handed down, which triggers the timing of our gathering today. But this is not just for some symbolism. One more, and then we're going to sign this. I guess, again, this brings me no joy to be doing this, by the way. Let me just reiterate that. I think my answer would be we have to leave all options on the table. I cut you off, sir. One more. This is very specifically to elicit the federal government to conduct an environmental impact study, which is a full-blown study factoring in all angles and all interested parties, including New Jersey. As was mentioned, they've got a group of 6 people that the MTA has gathered together. I know some of them, and I have a lot of respect for them, but there's nobody from Jersey on there. Let's sign this bill. Thank you all. I can't see a thing.
Am I good? You good?
Hey, you stood right in the middle. Thank you.
Jake, what's your vote? We good? Okay. So, this is Assembly Bill 4694. Sponsors in the Assembly, Chris Tully, Lisa Swain, Benji Wimberly, all of whom are here today. In the Senate, Joe Lagana and John Remick. I think John will step out, so we'll get his pen in absentia. The synopsis, it concerns tax treatment of individuals' income earned outside of the state of residence and appropriates $35 million to be spent in grants by the EDA under Tim's leadership. With that, here we go. First pen rightfully belongs to this guy, Senator Joe Lagana. To your right, Assemblywoman Lisa Swain. Assemblyman Chris Tully. Speaker of the General Assembly, Craig Coughlin. Darren, this is for you. Let's hear it in absentia for Senator John Brandon. Coach, Assemblyman Benji Wimberly. Benji. United States Senior Senator Bob Menendez. What's that? Thank you. Congressman Josh Gottheil. Special Envoy Josh Gottheil. Congressman Bill Pascrell. Mayor Mark Sokolich. Is Chris Emerald here? Chris, how are you, buddy? Representing the New Jersey Business and Industry Association is Chief Government Affairs Officer Chris Emerald. Is Tim here? All right, Tim, hold on, buddy. Representing the Meadowlands Chamber, Ron Simon Senior is here, also in spirit. The Chair of the Public Affairs Committee, Tim White. I'm honored to say, stand up and say it. This is now the law